Good evening, everybody. This is Dullahan here with a new Dawn of War 3 shoutcast. And today we have a match between Akiii as the Space Marines and Huck as the Eldar. In terms of doctrines, we have Wraith Lord's Command, Avenger Shields, and Improved Plasma Grenades for Huck. Pretty standard. The most non-standard thing we have is we got Jane Czar and the Wraith Knight. Usually we would expect to see Maka or the Wraith Lord or that kind of stuff. Kyre even. Jane Czar and Wraith Knight are both kind of not very common in 1v1. For Akiii, we got the Death Watch, Vendread, and Librarians. That's super standard. Most likely have Assault Leap on the Vendread and deploy anywhere on Kill Team Iron Maw. And then Librarian, probably the Blind Grenade buff. We can't actually see his doctrines right now, unfortunately. So, that sucks. We're going to keep it on Akiii the most we can here, just so we can always see the drop pods. I find it glitches out if you switch between players a little too much. So we do have a triple Servitor start from him, and the usual Dire Avenger start from Huck. Yeah, so we got barracks coming up right on the shield gen. That's pretty aggressive placement, I find. It's not the worst placement. It's a good idea, but at the same time it's a bit risky because your barracks can be eliminated pretty easily from relative safety wise. If the barracks is a little further back, you have to get in within range of the turret to damage it. This is pretty standard, building a woodway in the middle of the map here and probably building a warrior portal. Although you could skip the warrior portal, that's pretty standard too. We do have assault marines and 2 scouts. So again, super standard. The most interesting thing here is the assault marines are not actually going into the orbital relay. You usually see people put them in the orbital relay just because they can initiate the fight with shields. We might see a second assault marine show up in the orbital relay, which isn't a bad idea. This requisition generator up here for Akiii and one over here. So going heavy on requisition at the start here is kind of interesting, considering he's doing a Dire Avenger build. You would think he would want power in preference for kind of a fast tech build. But instead he's going for requisition, which I find a little odd. This generator finishing here is not so good because Akiii knows where it is, and it's going to be hard to defend it, but it looks like he's consolidating his Dire Avengers on this side here, moving up into the middle. We do have a power generator and an early elite point generator from Akiii. No elite point generator yet from the Eldar. We do have the Space Marines kind of attacking this kind of map. This Bone Sinner is probably going to die. So they're kind of just going around each other here, but they are going to engage in this middle here. I would say the advantage in terms of fighting power right now is Huck, provided he can dodge those blind grenades. It looks like they used one of their charges. And we do have Assault Leap, so that's fun. And yeah, good Assault Leap taking out most of the shields on both of these squads, and the standard is going to knock down these squads. And unfortunately, the way these squads are split up like this, he actually knocked him outside the blind grenade as well. These assault marines, oh good, they do get the standard, but the standard gets decapped right when they get the shield. So it looks like Hawk is a little bit beaten, needs to pull back into fleet of foot with these 2 squads here, I think. But I think he is going to win this engagement pretty handily, as these scout squads and this assault marine are not enough. And we don't have a second assault marine squad yet. He can't really afford it at the moment. He's reinforcing. He doesn't build another power generator over here, which is an interesting choice. So I think in terms of martial prowess, it has to go in Huck's favor. Of course, economically speaking, he did lose a requisition generator in the middle here. We do have a warrior portal and an elite point generator coming up here for Huck, so they're both on even terms in terms of elite points. However, the Death Watch squad is going to hit the field right away here, presuming he buys it right away. I would actually probably wait for the Librarian if it were me. I feel like Librarian would be a better choice against this kind of composition because he can wombo combo him with the not really have Death Watch coming in. So we're gonna see a Flamer on that most likely. Although personally I would like to see a missile because that could pressure this webway and this warrior portal a bit better, and he could actually move it for the shield gen. So what's he gonna go with? It looks like the flamer. Yeah, it looks like flamer. I can't tell right now. I would have gone with a missile personally. But you can say this webway is actually not as durable as people pretend it is. It's already down to like half health. He could probably warp it away right now. He could. He probably should. So we can see both players are not getting any upgrades at this point in time and not using their drop pods at all. Akiii could actually go to tier 2 right away here, which is an option. Personally, I think this Bone Cinder's got to work on his generator over here. I think Akiii would benefit from. Oh yeah, he's going tier 2. Okay. I would say Akiii needs to get more units on the field and kind of punish the Eldar. Eldar is actually not getting as much resources as he wants to at this point in time, which is good. This harassment back here somehow working. Striking Scorpions on the field now as well, but I think he's in a very good position to defend against that. So perhaps he is content just to harass the generators. He is killing more generators over here. So Eldar is actually not getting a ton of resources right now. Most of his generators are dying, except for this one that's just building right now. So good job on Akiii to keep the harassment up. Even decap this point. So Striking Scorpions are wasting their time capping over here when, you know, Bone Saner could do that instead. And they could go fight. Oh, we do have a Ranger squad coming out from that Warrior portal. So we do have Rangers being upgraded and a Ranger squad being built. For some reason, we can't actually see that. Oh, that's weird. I'm selecting it as the wrong person. That's why. Okay. And this power generator is a bit brave. I would like to see some requisition generators from Akiii, provided he started building more units. He's playing a very light tier 1. Going for tier 2, but I don't think it's going to work out for him the way he would hope, because he simply doesn't have the power to do anything with it. So he's gone tier 2 and he has nothing to show for it, besides plant to standard tier 2, which isn't exactly a big deal. The better choice, I think, at this point would be get more units on the field, get more generators, and get some upgrades, because he would be able to benefit from earlier upgrades. For example, getting tier 2 health pretty early on can be pretty powerful. Not as impactful as land speeders, perhaps. In terms of just fighting force, Huck has enough to just overwhelm the entire Space Marine army. If he actually researched some Shadow Specters from his Warrior portal, he could honestly win the game, I think, at this point. Pretty handily. Losing Elite Point Generator is also not so good. But since they both went for their 2 CP guys, it's not a huge deal. So I think Huck is at a huge advantage at this point in the game. But again, with this harassment over here, Huck keeps building these generators where he can't defend them. And it's costing him a lot of money. Still no tier 2 from Huck? Nope. So he's a bit behind on tech. He's got a lot of requisition because he built a lot of requisition, but he doesn't have a lot of power either. I think his best bet would be some Shadow Specters at this point. 1 or 2 of those would really let him take huge advantage of his army. He's got 2 Ranger squads and enough Dire Avengers. He can actually fight Space Marine head-on very easily here. And there's not a lot he can do about it. But I don't think he realizes how big his advantage is at this point and how easily he could win the game. Map control wise, it's kind of going all over the place. There are a lot of capping, decapping, harassment. You see the servitors over here just being annoying. What I would like to see is a second webway you get as well, so he could really cover the entire map with Fleet of Foot. These Striking Scorpions are just massively overextended and accomplishing nothing because they aren't actually damaging the shield generator itself while the shield is up. So they're actually probably going to die here, I would hazard a guess. They might just barely be able to slip away, but again, with the Servitor here, I don't even think that's going to happen. So I think that was a waste of the Striking Scorpions. And his army's off here and bumfuck nowhere accomplishing nothing. Meanwhile, Akiii does have a machine cult coming up. I don't like this placement because Eldar does have Shadow Specters and they can simply have them hover over this lava and destroy it pretty easily. We do have a Librarian probably coming out soon. Maybe Jane Czar soon as well. I would like to see that. That could help him a lot. This Librarian is going to do work. If he can grab this whole army here with his Stonewall and zap them, they'll kill everything. But it doesn't look like he's doing it. They are splitting up appropriately to avoid it. Yeah, this Librarian's so far being kind of wasted, actually, which is a bit unfortunate. I would have liked to see Stonewall with Fury of the Ancients. I probably would have done massive damage to all these units here and easily wiped out most of them. But it looks like with Assault Leap and their shields down, these squads are going to get wiped out anyway. Librarian really low on HP though. It's the thing about Eldar. When you have no shields, you just have to go home. You can't fight without shields no matter what. It's just too prohibitive. So I would say that engagement went really well for Akiii. The one thing is he needs to have Jonah shoot this thing. Oh, he just meleeed it. That's fine. He actually does a lot more damage in range, so you don't really want to force melee with him usually, especially because his shots will bounce between units. The only reason to force melee is if you have to tie something up specifically. But so far, Huck is in a bad position. Although Janezar is going to come in here, she might actually be able to pick off Jonah and the Deathlodge squad here. This is actually not so good for Akiii, although Janezar whiffing both of her abilities is not so hot here. She's probably going to get a little overextended here, but I think she's going to be able to kill Jonah here. Just one more hit. These Dire Avengers are just running around, but they're actually just bleeding. They're not actually accomplishing that much. So we have a Land Speeder coming out, and Huck is down to nothing. All he has is Janezar. He has no units on the field. He's no Warrior Portal on the field. So this Land Speeder is going to just wreak havoc. It's probably going to kill Janezar. Oh, he just barely managed to snipe the Deathwatch with that boomerang, which is nice, but I feel like Huck is completely mismanaged this entire mid-game here. This Land Speeder is going to come out and do tons of work on all of these generators that are not protected at all. Although he does have a lot of power generators up now, so I think he is planning to go in tier 2, and it looks like he is researching tier 2. But because he has no units on the field, even just like 1 or 2 squads of Shadow Specters would really help him out here. A lot of people aren't too sold on Shadow Specters as a counter to Land Speeders, but ignoring Doctrines, 1v1, Shadow Specters do win. Yeah, Janes are going down to that Land Speeder real fast, and Striking Scorpions are going to follow real soon. We do have Shadow Specters being researched, but because he lost that Warrior Portal, he's just so far behind. But 1v, yeah, as I was saying, 1v1, Land Speeders do lose to Shadow Specters, especially if they have the multi upgrade. And then it just comes down to upgrades. If you got shield upgrades and the shield doctrine, generally you will be able to tank through the extra blade of armor. But again, if you have this, it does look like he has the Land Speeder loner bonus kind of thing where it does more damage if it's by itself. The Striking Scorpion's critting on it actually was pretty good. And we're going Sky Portal. Sky Portal's okay. I think I would have preferred to see some Wraith Guard on the field, but a Falcon's going to be pretty good too. Or even a Viper would be nice, actually. You put the slow on all his units. Pretty nice. I haven't seen anyone really use it, but it's a very powerful ability, especially with Doctrines. More harassment over here, just continually killing Eldar's generators. Huck is not defending them adequately, and these ones are going to die too. So this is pretty good from Akiii doing good harassment. I think Huck has squandered his early game advantage in a big way. He's also floating tons of power. He has no units on the field at all. So he built all these power generators, but he can't actually really do... His only option, really, is to build vehicles like the Falcon that are really expensive on power, not so much a requisition, because he simply doesn't have... He doesn't have it. We don't have an arsenal up from Akiii for any upgrades. Power Swords in particular would be pretty good at this point. And we have one squad of Shadow Specters. These Striking Scorpions are all by their lonesomes. And this Webway Gate needs to go home. He might be able to set up a little bit of an ambush here on this Land Speeder with the Striking Scorpions and the Shadow Specters. But Shadow Specters are way out of position. Deathwatch is coming back on the field. And Jonah's coming back on the field as well. Jane starts probably not too far behind, about 2 minutes or so. At this point, I definitely want the power swords from Akiii. That would be, I think, the go-to move here. And yeah, we do have this constant harassment, but I think these stricken scorpions are coming in with their crit, and they're ready to wombo this land speeder, but I don't think they're gonna be able to do it. And yeah, nothing to support these scorpions, so they're just gonna die here. Unfortunately, nothing helping them fight. We do have AFK elites over here while he's busy over here. Yeah, stricken scorpions go down, not accomplishing much. Falcon's not really that good of a counter to the land speeder. In fact, I would say it's an awful counter to the land speeder. But it will do okay. Oh, showing the rear armor is not good. It's double damage, I believe. It actually seems to be more than double damage, but it's supposed to be double damage. And a Shadow Spectre so far not being used very effectively at all. This land speeder is just going to drive around. Probably going to go do a ton of damage to this stuff while everything is over here. If you really wanted to, you could just damage that stuff, just be annoying and poke at it. These guys haven't moved. So far from Akiii, he seems to be AFK. All his units are off in the middle of nowhere. While he macros the land speeder. Economically, the advantage I think is in Akii's hands here. He's lost less units, and HuK hasn't really been able to get back in this game. He's building an elite point generator. Akii's building it. No. Sorry, HuK's rebuilding that elite point generator, and I don't know if that's really worth it at this point. Maybe he'll get the Wraith Knight a little sooner, but I don't think that's too big a deal at this point. Falcons, again, Falcons are not the best harassing unit. What he really wants to do with these Shadow Spectres and Falcons is try and catch these units outside of the shield gen. Like, he needs these Shadow Spectres to be somewhere useful. Right now, like, they're awful at this. They're not harassment units in terms of generators. Although he would be able to float over here, that'd be cool. Yeah, Falcon going down here to the Death Watch and the land speeders. So I think at this point the game is very solidly in Akii's hands. HuK is just not fighting well, dare I say it. Nor is he particularly engaging worth a damn. Well, meanwhile, Akiii has had constant harassment, and he's been doing a better job of countering what his opponent is doing. I still would like to see an Arsenal come up sometime this year. That would be good. Same thing from HuK. He could use some upgrades. I would like to see this requisition being spent. Maybe it'd be a good time to get a Doctrine Chapel and get some Devastators. Those would really solidify this lead. And again, we're seeing this investment in the Falcons. And I don't agree with that at this point. He doesn't have the power reserves he used to have. I would actually rather see him get some Wraithguard out on the field instead of this Falcon. One squad of Wraithguard would make a big difference against those land speeders, I think. He also needs to use these Shadow Spectres against the land speeders and position them to try and ambush him in something. So we have Jane Zara back on the field. She hasn't really done anything that notable yet. And we do have the Striking Scorpions back. So at this point, HuK has a decent army. I think where he's really lacking is he's really lacking anti-infantry. But at the same time, if he can keep that Falcon alive, it will mop up the ASMs. The heroes can fight each other, and then he just needs to use these Shadow Spectres well to take out the land speeders, which are over here. There's 3 land speeders at this point. I think that's over-investment in land speeders, honestly. I would like to see tier 3 and get maybe a Predator or a Dreadnought, one of the two. I think a Dreadnought would have been kind of a weaker choice. Yeah, you can just see these Eldar elites are just way better in a melee fight than the Space Marine elites. And I think both of them are going to die here. These Shadow Spectres are charging up their beams on him as well. So at this point, he needs to push this shield gen and take out this barracks. He needs to go there with everything he has. He doesn't need to, no, he's splitting up again. And this is what screwed him over before. Now, if the Shadow Spectres actually came over here, this wouldn't be too bad. He would probably want a Webway Gate here, but he could harass the Machine Cult and the Land Speeders, if not kill them completely, and that would be pretty solid. Again, still no Arsenal, still no Soul Shrine. Oh wait, we do have a Soul Shrine. Hooray, but no upgrades yet, so it's irrelevant. One thing I really want to see people use is this increased shield regen upgrade. If you're going to use Wraithlord's Command with a lot of the Webway in Tier 1, please get that upgrade. See, we have this Falcon being surrounded by itself, made shot in the butt, and just dying near instantly. So that's exactly what we didn't want to see happen. We wanted to see these guys protect the Falcon. You'd think he would learn by now that the Falcon can't fight the Land Speeders. These guys need to stay with the Falcon. Even better, I think you can actually garrison these guys in the Falcon. And we do have another Webway going down here. So, do we have Tier 3 yet? We don't have Tier 3 yet. I think something like a Predator Destructor would basically seal this game in Akii's favor. At the very least, we're seeing him spend his requisition on more Assault Marines. And this harassment is relentless. These Assault Marines just splitting up, going to kill generators. So I think Huck is really in shambles ever since the early game when he lost everything. He's just not using his units effectively. He's not using the Shadow Spectres with Fleet of Foot to catch these Land Speeders. And I think the better way is just use these guys as a guard for the Falcon and use the Falcon to pressure the Assault Marines. The only real counter to that is heavy bolters, which do tons of damage to the Shadow Spectres, or a Predator Destructor, which would do good against the Falcon and the Shadow Spectres. I wouldn't go for a Predator Annihilator though, because it's only really good against vehicles and heavy armor. The Destructor, on the other hand, is good against everything. And very good against Shadow Spectres, since they tend to clump up like this, and one shot will take them down easily to no shields. I think Huck is in a position to really take out the shield generator and his barracks, provided he commits to it, but he's not doing it. He's trying to do harassment and all this bullshit. He just needs to attack. And these Land Speeders are not going to beat these Shadow Spectres in a fair fight, especially with the support of the Ever Elder units and the Fleet of Foot bonus. You know, Shadow Spectres scale pretty well, so the more you have, the harder they are to counter with vehicles. And these Webways being picked off again. He's not even warping these really. And I believe this is Deathwatch coming back in. So he didn't actually have the drop pod. He has the Land Speeder buff. So he has tons of Land Speeder Doctrine buffs, which is good, but he needs to use Jane Zar to deal with these Assault Marines first and foremost, while the Shadow Spectres need to focus on these Land Speeders. So he's in the exact opposite scenario. So Akii's doing a good job of forcing these units away. He also needs to use the Slow Mine. Oh, he did try to use it, I guess. Oh yeah, there it is. There's a Temporal Bomb. Combo that with Jane Zar's Boomerang, and this would be a very different engagement. Also, upgrades would make such a big difference at this point. Still no Arsenal. Still no upgrades. So these are, you know, vanilla units basically. So we saw those Shadow Spectres get cleaned up by these Assault Marines because he didn't properly protect them with his melee units. And if he would have just simply had Jane Zar screening the Shadow Spectres, these Assault Marines would have all easily been mopped up by her and the Striking Scorpions. The Boomerang alone can kill Assault Marines. Now we have the Vendread on the field. And the Vendread really is the kind of unit you need a ton of anti-tank to counter. It's so much hit points, and it does such good damage. Kind of whiffing shooting his own Stonewall there, though. So I think at this point, Akiii can really end the game out, provided he builds some units. He could tech up right now to Tier 3, get some Predators on the field. Or he could just use these Land Speeders and he could try and take out the production, and I think that would force a quit from Huck. He's been a little passive at this point. All he needs to do is engage. Oh, we do have the Wraith Knight hidden in the field, and that's going to kind of turn the tides a little bit here. Because it is providing a very hard counter to these land speeders. As well as a pretty decent counter to the Vendread. I'm pretty sure the Wraith Knight will beat it 1v1. But actually, I think it would be pretty close. I think if the Vendread meleeed it, I'm not sure if that would tie him up or not. But if he could do that, that would be effective, I think. Again, building another Falcon. I guess it's good against the Assault Marines, and they're kind of all low health from the previous engagements. Losing Jane's Iron to striking Scorpions every time they're alive is pretty bad. So I think elite preservation would really be advantageous. Economically speaking, we do have more generators for Huck than Akiii at this point. But I don't think the generators are a big deal at this point in time. We do have tier 3 probably coming up. No, he just built more land speeders, I think. He spent that power somewhere and it wasn't. Oh, he did get Arsenal. He did get Arsenal. He's building Arsenal right now, okay. But now he's finally building Arsenal. You can see how this barracks and the shield gen both got nuked by that Wraith Knight. That's the danger of building them so close together. These Shadow Spectres are going to die though. Unfortunately. But this Vendread's also taking tons of damage from the Wraith Knight. Fun fact about the Wraith Knight is when he jumps, his attack speed's actually increased. At this point, the Wraith Knight just needs to shoot dudes. You can also, I didn't realize this, but you can actually reverse move your heavy elites like the Wraith Knight, and if you reverse move him, he'll shoot dudes while he's walking away, which is pretty useful. Same deal with like Solaria and any ranged super heavy. Any super heavy can reverse move, I think, but I think the ranged ones are the ones that actually benefit from it. You just see how much damage this does shooting them in the butt. At this point, Wraith Knight needs to pull back a little bit. I would like to see some increased shield regen. I don't know if this actually affects vehicles, actually, even though they are under the effect of battle focus. So the Vendread is being wiped out by the Wraith Knight. So this Wraith Knight is keeping Huck in the game at this point. He's spamming these Vipers, like, what? Why would you do that? They're not really that good. This Wraith Knight also needs to go back and regenerate its shields. That's the majority of its health. So by fighting without shields, it's not really... I don't know. It's not a good idea. Yeah, this is a bit of overinvestment in land speeders. We do have power swords finally getting researched. So he realizes he needs more anti-vehicle. But I would have liked to see upgrades a lot earlier in the game. He is floating a ton of money as well. Oh, that's Huck floating money, my apologies. And Huck should probably get some Wraith Guard. Or get some Dark Reapers. 2 or 3 squads of Dark Reapers would really be a nice option. Yeah, Assault Marines continuing to harass. This harassment is relentless. But this is a bit risky though, because the Assault Marines are going to have a hard time. We got a bunch of Shadow Spectres come out, and I don't necessarily mind that, but I don't think it's as necessary at this point. The only reason, if you're going to build these Shadow Spectres, you need to bring them across the cliff and into their base and try and snipe their production structures. Especially when they're not there. This map is great for the Shadow Spectres can just go across this cliff, destroy some structures, and go home. It's real effective. And we do have these land speeders kind of going into the middle of this, and it's not the best situation to be in, because with the Vipers and the Striking Scorpions here, although these Vipers are not a good counter to land speeders, and his Shadow Spectre usage is just awful. You need to use these guys at long range. They have way longer range than land speeders, so sit them like way back like this, and have a unit give vision, and right click on them, and it'll do great. But he keeps, see, they're not shooting, it's because he keeps changing targets. So he's probably just selecting all these units and right clicking on stuff. You can see now that they're actually shooting, their damage is a bit more respectable here. This standard shield is actually saving this land speeder from very certain doom. This Wraith Knight's just not getting there in time. Also needs to use this distortion rift on the Wraith Knight, which I don't see a lot of people use. It slows down vehicles, and what else did it say? It does, and causes knockback. So basically, you want to slow down the vehicles, which would be really good because the land speeders are the only units that Akiii really has at this point. He is getting vehicle upgrades, which is an odd choice because I don't know. It's not going to be that beneficial for land speeders. Although he's going to snipe the production structures here. Striking Scorpions died again somewhere. Again, just sacrificing another webway gate. If we look around the map, we can actually see how many dead webway gates there are on the ground. There's one here, one here, one here, one here. Actually, some of these might be Falcons, to be fair. There's like at least one there. There's so many dead webways. The amount of webways that have died in this game is absurd. I think Huck needs to be a bit bolder when it comes to attacking the turret. Although at this point, maybe not, because it's almost escalation phase 4. Not so relevant. Earlier in the game, he probably could have easily won. At this point, it's a bit more in a... I don't know, Akii's in a bad position. He's been too reliant on these land speeders, and he hasn't teched up for predators. I think if he would have just got the predators instead of getting 4 or 5 land speeders, he would have been in a lot better position. This Wraith Knight here alone can easily win this game if he micros it properly. But he's not. His units are not together ever, and they're always out of position. There's that distortion rift. I'm kind of whiffing on this focus beam, unfortunately. And I think he just needs to jump back towards his Shadow Spectres here. He needs to micro these Shadow Spectres better. He's not right-clicking on dudes. And I think these land speeders are actually going to finish off this Wraith Knight here due to this complete lack of micro, essentially. He needs to get out of here with both these elites here, or he's going to lose both of them. And again, still harassment on both these generators. So one thing Akiii has done excellent is continually harassing generators throughout the entire game. Whereas he doesn't actually have that many generators of his own, but just by harassing them relentlessly. I don't agree with pulling back these land speeders. I think he should have committed to killing the Wraith Knight and Jane Star. I think he could have easily killed them both. I think he still could. I think he just needs to commit to it. Instead of letting him go heal, he's kind of wasting the opportunity to really punish these guys. But yeah, the scouts they're harassing, calling in more assault marines. This power float from Huck is insane, but he doesn't actually have any units other than his elites. And at the same time, there's been so many land speeders being produced that he hasn't had the resources to tech up. If he would have just teched up and got a predator, it would have been over, honestly. These land speeders are going to go for some suicide run action here. This is interesting. It's a bit redundant building mass land speeders when you have the land speeder bonus when they work by themselves. Oh, we finally have an infinity portal coming up, so we are going to see some Wraith Guard with all this power. And I think that, more than anything, is really going to shut down Akii's playstyle. He's trying to kill these generators, which isn't a bad move, but it's not going to really help against Wraith Guard. That said, better than doing nothing, that is for sure. And chances are very good Huck is just going to rebuild all these generators. He can go for this shield generator, though. He just needs to focus it. And because Huck isn't defending nor attacking, I think this is actually going to work out pretty well for... we do have the Bone Sander sneaking in there. I think he should just keep attacking it. Like no sense running away. And Huck is just paralyzed over here, building Wraith Guard. At this point, we do have the Circuit Scorpions coming back, but they're just going to get killed by this land speeder blob. Using the storm on the land speeders is not going to be super effective. He might be able to get this one before he gets over the cliff, but no, he's going to be able to get up there. And he's moving into attack with the Wraith Knight. Wraith Knight not fully healed, and going up against 2 Assault Marines and a Vendread. I think this is a bad engagement. You see how fast this Wraith Knight gets bopped once the shields go down. You didn't even need the Assault Marines or the Land Speeders. So, you know, I would say Huck needs to learn how to use his units together and not just send one guy off to die. These Land Speeders should actually circle back around and start doing the objective damage while these Assault Marines can just chew apart these Wraith Guard. These Wraith Guard no longer have the defenses that they need. We do have some Wraith Blades coming, which is going to be good. This is pretty smart, pulling them away. In terms of upgrades, we do have vehicle damage up researched, which will benefit these Wraith Guard. But they don't have any health, and we don't have any of the Wraith upgrades, which would be pretty handy. And I think the Infinity Portal just died there, actually, so he isn't going to get any Wraith Blades at all. Jane'Zar is just kind of standing around here waiting to die. So I think this is just a case of Huck being a little overwhelmed by this game. And I think Akii's a bit too committed to the Land Speeder strat. I don't think it's optimal. I think if Huck would have played smarter, this would have been shut down really hard. Especially once that Wraith Knight got on the field. But even earlier in the game, Huck's been floating tons of resources. If he would have just used his units a bit better, he could have easily beat this Land Speeder strategy. At this point, I think the game is pretty solidly in Akii's hands, with Huck only really having a couple of Wraith Guard and some Shadow Specters. And he has no upgrades. That's the thing. If he would have had some upgrades, these Shadow Specters would not be so squishy. And they would have been a lot more intimidating. But because they're completely unupgraded, they only have like 700 hit points. It's not a lot. And once they start losing models and damage, they're just not that effective against Land Speeders, especially mass Land Speeders. But if you have upgrades and you consolidate your forces, you can easily handle Land Speeders with Shadow Specters. And again, these Shadow Scorpions, Dragon Scorpions are just going to die. Jane'Zar died somewhere again. These elite units just constantly going to waste. So he's pumping out more Wraith Guard and Shadow Specters. It's good. It's probably the best choice at this point. But I think Akiii needs to do some teching. And Huck needs to spend these power, this 400 power, he needs to spend it on some infantry upgrades. He's finally getting infantry damage. He needs to get shields. Shields are far more important than damage at this point in time. Because shields stop you from losing damage. Whereas boosting damage, again, it doesn't really... It matters, but it's not the big thing. What I would actually like to see is these Land Speeders come around on this flank over here and start poking at the Soul Shrine and Infinity Portal from back here, while his other units can kind of move in on the turret from up here. It's very difficult to defend two places at once when you only have a few units. So I think he could actually really do some heavy damage. And another webway is gonna die needlessly. Although that Assault Marine squad got a little bit shot up, I would say. So at this point, it's a bit of a stalemate. I think Akii's a bit afraid to engage, and Huck is just kind of sitting back, waiting for his Wraith Knight to come back. We do finally have the Shadow Specters going across the gap, but they're going over here to kill a generator. They're not good against generators. Like, they're not awful, but it's good for charging up their weapons. But you're far better off using these guys to flank these these Land Speeders driving in while these guys are fully charged. If Huck is on his game, he could just right click on these guys, but he's not on his game, so they're gonna die. See, he's made a mistake of moving away instead of just committing to shooting. But you can see, without any health or anything, mass Land Speeders is just gonna obliterate Shadow Specters. The key, okay, we do have the Land Speeders coming in the back here, and this is really nice. I like this. He needs to focus on the Soul Shrine and the Infinity Portal here. If he focuses on this Infinity Portal, he could actually kill it. I guess he doesn't want to overcommit these Land Speeders. But this is pretty good as a flanking maneuver. I think he needs to remember to come back that way later on. Unfortunately, this army is neither healing nor attacking. He really should bring this Vanguard back to the HQ just to heal it up. And let's see for upgrades. We do have health level 1, and that's about it. We do have a lot of vehicle upgrades, but again, it's just land speeders, so Lots of assault marines and drop pods, which is useful. He does have tier 3 researching finally, so we might see a predator. A predator annihilator would be really good against all these Wraith units. So I would like to see that at this point. And yeah, poor Huck's just stuck waiting for his Wraith Knight. And all his elites, really. He might try and poke out a little bit here. He doesn't have a lot of melee. He does have the Wraith Blades, but if he can get all his elites, this army is more than enough to win the game. The problem that Huck has continually mismanaged his army and essentially wasted them, in my opinion. So at this point, I think Akiii is in a more advantageous position simply because he fights with his entire army, whereas Huck seems to just send units off to die for no real reason. This harassment is still going, by the way. This is really good continual poking at his opponent's defenses and his resources, and that's been pretty excellent to see. And you see why he's attacking these generators over here. These land speeders are going back in, and they're going to swoop in and do some damage. They're going to kill a Bone Saner, and they're probably going to kill this Infinity Portal while these Wraithguard are out of position. So that's a pretty big blow to Huck. I do think he lost the Assault Marine squad over here, though. But yeah, he killed the Infinity Portal. He could actually kill Jane Czar here if he just focus fires her. But I think he's just running away. This positioning for the Soul Shrine, I don't know why he rebuilt the Soul Shrine right away. That seems like an odd decision, considering he's not upgrading his vehicle shields or anything. I do believe the increased shield regen applies to all other units, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe it only applies to squads and not vehicles. That's something that might be able to be figured out at some point and made into a tip of the week. We shall see. So I'm really disappointed this Vendread hasn't gone to heal. These units have all been AFK while these land speeders kind of just micro. We do have Huck moving out now that he has his elite units coming back, and I do think his army is more than enough to win this. I think it's just a matter of just attacking as a group, especially while these land speeders are way over here. Although he does know this fight is coming, and we do have a Deathstorm drop pod and a Predator Annihilator, so this is good. This land speeder needs to go, though. Stop building those fucking things. We do have tier 3 standard and 2 Assault Marines in reserve, so I think Akiii ultimately has the better force here, especially with that orbital going off. That's a good orbital positioning too, because it's gonna be really hard to disrupt that. Yeah, I think this game's gonna go in Akii's favor here. This engagement is definitely in his favor. Wraith Knight being summoned over here for God knows what reason. And yeah, these Wraith units are all in a full retreat here. Land Speeder's kind of coming in. Wraith Knight is here. He needs to just focus fire these land speeders down. He needs to use Jane Czar to peel off these Assault Marines. Striker Scorpion's going down. Wraith Unit's going down. Wraith Knight's going to get a good AoE off and killing all the land speeders at one blow. So, and we do have Deathwatch going down. I think this is actually turning back into Huck's favor here, mostly because this Vendread's over here counting. And we have the Librarian going down. Wraith Knight coming in here. Probably going to kill this last land speeder here. So all we really have is the Predator, which is way back here. Oh, land speeder is just barely able to get away. So at this point, I think Huck needs to focus on getting some resources back. Get some generators up. Or the other option is to just try and kill Akiii while he's rebuilding. The risk in that is that the Wraith Knight's the only unit that can really do that. Jane Czar will help, but his other units are both weakened and reinforcing. If he snipes this turret, that would actually be really good, because that would get him essentially back in the game economically. Again, we have more land speeders coming out instead of another Predator. I feel like that's just silly. I see the value in having mass land speeders because you have so much DPS and it's very mobile. But at this point, he doesn't need to worry about the small fries. He needs to just counter the Wraith Knight as hard as he can. And again, he's just harassing these generators. It's just a dumb move. Because that doesn't really matter at this point. It matters, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is this turret and rebuilding. So he's going for all these generators, and meanwhile these land speeders are going to do that way better than him. He's building some generators in the middle, but again, with the land speeders, he's not going to be able to defend it. So I think the better move would be to take this Wraith Knight and try and poke this turret and then back off and rebuild some units with the money that you get from that. But maybe he forgot that he had suicide his Wraith Knight at this turret earlier, so he might not remember that it's actually pretty low. And at this point, we have another massive land speeders here. Finally, Huck's units are all in position to fight together. We do have the assault mates kind of jumping behind him here. This is actually not the best engagement for Akiii. He does have the Death Storm coming in here, and that's a weird choice. Because Wraith Knight don't give no fucks about Death Storm. Although all of Huck's other units are gonna die here. But this Wraith Knight's gonna be able to walk away. I think if Huck was just aware of the reverse move on this Wraith Knight, this game would have been over a long time ago, because he would have just shot all the land speeders while he walked away. At this point, the Wraith Knight is completely by himself. And see, if he was facing those guys, he would actually do a ton of damage to them. Instead, he's walking away from them and getting shot in the back, which I think still does bonus damage. I think the Super Elites still have rear armor, which is something else to consider. These land speeders are all going to die, but it doesn't matter at this point, because the Wraith Knight is dead again. And I think that's it for Huck. I think he just spent himself. He doesn't have any real income. And I think all Akiii has to do is just attack move, essentially. There's no production, really. He did lose a bunch of land speeders at the end there. He's probably building more land speeders, despite me. But I think both players have kind of exerted most of their resources, but Akiii has the advantage. He can just pump out some Assault Marines and finish it off that way. With the power swords. But Huck hasn't given up yet. He's building an Infinity Portal. And we do have 2 Assault Marine squads queued up in orbital relays for Akiii. So I think we're going to see Huck go for more Wraith Guard. But I think he's just lost so many units carelessly in this game. And this harassment continues. So pretty soon Huck is going to have 0 generators. And it's all going to be... Oh, he's doing some of his own harassment over here, I guess. But these generators are pretty much undisturbed. Yeah, with the Predator all healed up, moving out, Predator Annihilator is going to do a ton of damage to Wraith Guard. And all the production structures. But it would be nice to see is more land speeders. He's building more land speeders. Please stop. No more land speeders. The Dreadnought would actually be pretty good against this Wraith Guard kind of build, because you just time up in melee. Also very good against the Banshees and the Striking Scorpions. So at this point, Akiii just needs to attack. I think maybe he wants a bigger army. I don't know, but I think he has a huge advantage. Wraith Blades, kind of a weird choice. They're good against the Assault Marines, I guess. Well, not really. Because they do armor piercing DPS. Granted, they do a ton of DPS. But remember, it's only like 20% of your damage against normal armor. So it's significantly less DPS. Wraith Blades are a better counter to knobs. Or walkers, like Stellaria or that sort of stuff. Not so good against, Assault Marines, but good against the Predator, if you can get close enough to it. And I guess good against the Land Speeders, but Wraith Blades are really slow. They are much better as a defensive unit, which, granted, this is a defensive scenario. So he could just keep them sitting on his turret so the assault marines can't just sit on it. Yeah, we do have this land speeder with all the buffs in the world. So we do have the one that gives it the bonus when it's fighting alone. It also has the shield, and then it has the debuff from the Death Watch as well when it shoots stuff. So that's a lot of buffs for this land speeder. And we do have a Eldritch Storm going down here, but it's not going to accomplish much here. These assault marines are just going to jump in, and this is a good standard placement because it is going to give him a lot of healing and the shield and all that bonuses. At this point, he's kind of grouping up for this turret shot though, but it does manage to whiff. This stun is actually pretty brutal though while he has the Eldritch Storm there. All these units taking damage and Chainsaw jumps in. These assault marines are going to die, but I think this Predator alone is going to kill this turret. With him and Jonah, anyway. So this is actually a weird scenario here because I think Space Marine still has an advantage here because he does have the Predator Annihilator, and he's going to kill this turret. And he could use another drop pod here, call in more units. He could also build more units at home and queue them up over here. I think at this point, it's going to handily go to Akiii as the winner here. To be fair, though... Okay, yeah, Akiii did a good job getting upgrades at the end, but man, I wish they would have got those upgrade structures out a little bit earlier. It would have made a huge difference for either player. It's really underestimated. You also could have done with upgrading the resource nodes, in fact. This one got upgraded once, but you know, upgrade that shit. It makes you a lot more money, especially in the long run in a game like this. And we do have the power core. Just kind of like a final, like, haha, I win, I'm going to close the power core. I see a lot of people do this. I don't see why you bother closing it when you can't actually do anything about it. It's kind of, I think it's almost like bad manner kind of thing. But, you know, maybe he wants to get some XP for these Dragon Scorpions. And that's game. Thanks for watching, guys.